right. Hi, everybody. I'm Dani Cushion. I'm the CMO at Innovid, and I have to say thank you to my dear friend Ashwini and Marla and the amazing team at 4As. It's really nice to have an event in my hometown, Atlanta. How many people are actually Atlanta-based? All right, love it. Awesome. And thank you for those of you that came in, too. I'm glad, I know there are storms brewing elsewhere, so it's nice to have you in town. I think from a buzzword bingo standpoint, the 4A's drinking game so far, the winner is AI. But in the cocktail hour, maybe we can get some love for frequency as well. It's a big issue in the industry. It's something that we at Innovid focus a lot of our innovation energy on solving. We rolled out a suite of solutions and a whole initiative last year focused on solving the frequency management issue in the industry. We do that hand in hand with a lot of amazing partners, including the three people I have with me on the stage today. So please join me in welcoming these three amazing folks who will introduce themselves in just a minute.
Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. I'm Kacinda Belk, and I lead the DSP product management team at Yahoo DSP. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you, Ashwini and Dani, for inviting me to join the panel. I'm from Ashburn, Virginia, and interestingly enough, we got 6 inches of snow last night, but there was a weather delay because of the weather in Atlanta. But I still made it, so here I am.
Yeah, we will shut that airport down for an inch of snow in Atlanta. We will. Hi, everyone. I'm John Monroe. I'm a director of business strategy at the Goodway Group. If you're not familiar with Goodway Group, I like to think of us as a turnkey acceleration partner for agencies. That's really the best way to think about Goodway Group. We partner with a lot of independent agencies to kind of help them, figure out ways to optimize and grow their media and compete for business that they may not necessarily otherwise be able to compete for. So that's, in a nutshell, what Goodway does. And I'm from Philadelphia, so I have to also say go Birds, and I hope you enjoyed the Super Bowl this weekend.
Hey, I'm Taylor Southerland. I'm here on behalf of 22 Squared. I've been here for 5 years in Atlanta. It's been a great second home for me. And yeah, we're a full service agency, and I'm here to talk on behalf of Southeast Toyota, my client, but our agency as a whole.
All right, perfect. So the conversation today is really about what can we as agencies, as tech partners, as DSPs, as brands, as publishers do about the frequency management issues that we all face. It's really a focus on reducing waste, being more efficient, finding more convergence across platforms to do the things that we need to for the industry. So I'd love to just kick it off with you guys. Taylor, I'll start with you.
All right.
Good. What do you think is the biggest challenge that our industry faces today when it comes to frequency management? And again, looking at this holistically as well, holistically across omni-channel frequency management.
Yeah, I think the fact that we're talking about it holistically is probably the key to all of it, right? When we think about fragmentation in the media landscape, the fragmentation continues. I mean, we talk about the, social media and the birth of all sorts of platforms that come up in social media, potentially some going away, but those are the things that really keep us up at night. We ask ourselves, okay, we can measure frequency within a social platform or with TV specifically, but we know that people aren't just consuming one channel. So how do we break down those silos, stitch that together, and really have a really good understanding of reaching those individuals for our clients?
Right, Kacinda, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, totally aligned with what Taylor said. Like the fragmentation across the supply sources when it comes to the publisher direct IOs and the programmatic platforms, the walled gardens, like you mentioned, and even linear TV, those are the things that are preventing the reach and frequency that the advertisers need to achieve. And I mean, I think that's why it's so important that ad tech solutions are considering that holistic view and driving towards identity-backed solutions that look across all supply sources with that unique frequency in mind.
Right, viewers don't care where it comes from, right? How about you, John?
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I mean, you both touched on it. I would say, the holistic frequency measurement and making sure it's accurate and, human-based frequency is another one that I would, also bring into the equation of the frequency that you're counting. Is it actual, human eyes on screens? That's another issue that's come up in ad tech a lot lately. So yeah, I would say that, measuring accurate frequency across different channels in the omni-channel universe is the biggest challenge.
Yeah, so let's bring it to a bit of reality. So consider, what does it look like in real campaigns for you guys. You work with a ton of different clients. What does the waste actually look like? Can you give us a couple of specific examples?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say like waste comes in a few varieties. Obviously, when we go across all of those various disparate channels, we do see a lot of duplication of reach. But it's not just that, right? Like it's also, within frequency, you might be reaching your average frequency goals, but the distribution of that frequency is still overexposing and underexposing some users. So, I mean, I think that's another challenge that we really need to get more prescriptive around. And again, you have to have data that's holistic in order to have an answer to that question.
John, how about you?
Sorry, what was the question?
No, it's okay. The most effective way. We're looking at the solution
specific
side,
question.
but
Yeah.
specifically, how are you getting buy-in from clients on this and making sure that they're understanding the issues that that we face in the industry, and what does it look like from a client conversation?
From a
with you?
buy-in standpoint. Yeah, so I think clients are already buying into the idea of frequency being super important. I think sometimes they just get distracted by maybe, particularly in CTV, potentially chasing cheap reach and impressions. I think that comes up a lot where our end clients measure their CTV buys in just impressions and VCR. And the reality is that that's not really the best way to do it. So I think the buy-in is already there. It's just more they're a little bit distracted. But I think the best way to really get buy-in from clients that are not necessarily focused on frequency is something that's top of mind, super important, is to remember, to kind of look at your KPIs that you're going to measure in your CTV campaign. If we're not looking at impressions and VCR, what's a good KPI? Cost per unique reach is something that's surfaced in the last couple of years in CTV, and it's become a really good KPI to look at. And because reach is a function of budget and frequency, you really have to pay attention to frequency to make sure you're getting that target reach that you want if you're looking at CTV as an awareness channel. So I just like to help them look through that equation, cost per unique reach, to really underscore why frequency can be so important.
That's great. How about you, Taylor, from a client perspective?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, what I think about when I think about client buy-in, I think about our clients are putting so much money into what we do on a day-to-day basis. The next question they're going to ask us is, what is it doing for us, right? So it really comes down to measurement and performance. So when I think about getting a client to buy into the notion of frequency management, it's all about the idea that frequency management is going to improve your performance. We're going to have a better understanding of attribution. We're not going to have misattribution. We're not going to oversaturate and spend, wasted dollars on sending the same message to the same person over and over and over again. You have the ability to learn from the creative too. Where do we start to get into a place where creative fatigue takes place? So I think if we frame it up in that way and we talk about, what's really at our clients' hearts, it's all about their investment, making sure that it's paying off for them so that they look good to their bosses. So I think it's a really easy conversation to have a lot of times.
Cool. Let's stay with you two on the client side.
Sure.
What are some practical things that you're doing with clients now to manage frequency?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think one of the practical ways that clients can start to really get a handle on frequency and help manage frequency is to look at your buys holistically across the board and see what you're able to consolidate. You might not be able to consolidate everything, but consolidation in a good DSP, like the Trade Desk, for example, that gives you really advanced frequency management tools, allows you to really, across multiple different channels, have access to pretty much every premium publisher you might want to access, but with a holistic identifier behind the scenes. And then where you can't necessarily buy certain things, so you might want to buy a direct, say like a homepage takeover or something like that has to be publisher direct, then it makes sense to look outside of that. But being able to consolidate what you can definitely helps from a measurement standpoint and being able to frequency cap.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I think the other thing that I would say is, I take a moment to do something that maybe just feels a little simple, but let's audit ourselves. Let's think about what tools we currently have in place. And I think most of us in the room have, something, whether it's syndicated research that's giving you insights on audience and their media consumption and the overlap of that consumption, or if you subscribe to planning tools, whether it's a planning tool specifically for TV or it's, planning scenarios where you can go cross-channel. Those are things that I think we can look at when we maybe don't have the opportunity to take it to that advanced stage quite yet. But I would say starting there, thinking about what we have access to, and then you allow yourself to find the gaps, and then you can come to smart partners to find solutions for those gaps.
Right. And I think something that comes up a lot is what is a good frequency, right? What are we targeting? What is that goal? And I think determining that ideal frequency requires you to have this vision across the whole universe so you can see what frequency is doing in market. So using, studies like conversion lift studies to identify the optimal frequency for your brand, because it might be different. It might not be the standard, 7 ads per X amount of time. It might be something a little bit different for your brand that drives the most lift. Maybe less conversion or less, impressions is better than more. So I think using those tools available to you in those platforms, making sure you have access to conversion lift, multi-touch attribution, things like that, and testing them and toying around with them is definitely a good place to start.
I love that point, actually, because you said for your brand. And it's not the same for everybody.
No, right.
No, it's not the same for everybody. It's not the same based on, and not everybody has the same goal. So depending on where they are in the path. And
even different product launches within different, within a singular brand, they might want a different level of frequency for, maybe a weekly or a seasonal promotion or something. You might want a higher level of frequency, where if it's an evergreen product, you may not want as high of a frequency. So
yeah, I mean, just to build on that, I mean, I think about specific product lines that we have where perhaps awareness consideration is maybe higher for one, and we are in a more challenging place in another. So we may need to create that frequency to break through and boost us up. So it really can become very granular when you start to ask yourself, what is that right frequency? But I think having the access to the tools allows you to uncover those things, so we're not throwing darts at a board.
yeah, that's a nice tee up, because Kacinda and I are in the same world, that we have the tech platforms who are underpinning a lot of this work. Talk to us about what Yahoo's doing. You talked a little bit about identity and data, but AI, ding ding, and the technology that can underpin a lot of this. How is that evolving?
Yeah, I mean, like we all know that, frequency capping started out as pretty manual, right? Like you applied a suppression audience, you added a frequency cap, and then, you kind of used the bidder as a backstop, right? And I think that it's evolving fast, right? Like our DSP strategy over the last 5 or 6 years actually has been to ingest data outside of our ecosystem, right? Like using, linear data, for example, to inform the bigger picture, right? And that drives a better view of under and overexposed users. And then, as you know, Dani, we've had a very successful test with our products together, complementary products between the Yahoo DSP and Innovid Harmony, in helping customers understand, across that holistic view where they were missing or reaching, overexposing or underexposing users. So, I mean, I think those things are what are going to make this way more automated, sending these signals into the optimization engine and letting the optimization engine make the decisions about the right frequency.
This is where you can really geek out on it, because it's a lot of fun to see the overexposed, underexposed piece too is important. It's not just the overexposure, but you might have audiences that, oh, wow, I'm actually not reaching them as much as I want to. And so it's not just about shutting things down. It's about making sure that you're redirecting to find people that you might not be reaching as much as you should.
And that's actually what we saw in the tests that we ran together, was that it was shifting to the underexposed users and households, right? Like that's exactly where it was going, so.
Time goes very fast. Again, you can geek out on this. You can tell ad tech people, but
Not boring.
Let's look ahead. Let's look ahead. I mean, Ashwini and I can wax poetic on household frequency management and the beauty that comes with it, like offline over drinks. But so let's look ahead. What's one major shift for you guys, really from an agency perspective first, that you think agencies need to prepare for in the next year, 2 years, to be able to get ready for the frequency needs that your clients have?
Happy to kick this one off. I'm going to say it again. I don't want to say this word again, but AI is impacting frequency as well as it's impacting everything else. So you're seeing, a lot of these, automated engines in the DSPs start to control frequency on an automated basis. And we're moving more towards that autonomous advertising end state that some DSPs are trying to target. And I think that's okay. I think we have to be mindful of it as marketers. But I think what it really means for us and what it should mean is that it should free our traders up to really work on the business rather than work in the business. So instead of our traders all day being in the platform poking around and changing minor bid factors in the platform, I think the AI can help them to kind of work at a higher level and read the insights coming out of the platform and then take more strategic initiatives that are more of a test and learn approach in the platform for unique frequency, testing that you might want to do. So that's one thing I'd say to be mindful of moving forward is how AI is impacting every feature changing in your buying platform.
John, you're very smart. I would say, one of the things, I don't even know if this is necessarily new per se, but to me, one of the things that I would say for the next 12 months, really stay abreast of what's going on in data privacy and compliance. That to me is huge because that's evolving very quickly as well. And that's a very complex space. And I think, as we talk about things being siloed and breaking down silos, you've got to make sure that we're looking at solutions, partners that aren't just data rich, but are driven by data interoperability, because we need to break down those silos and bring this thing together. So I think if you
Amen.
stay focused
I'm gonna get an
there, we'll be in a good spot.
Great. Kacinda, same question. What do you? You work with a ton of agencies
Yeah.
and brands directly.
Yeah, I'm going to underscore, what John and Taylor said in separate discussions, but basically, I think what's important is that agencies help brands lean into their optimal frequency, right? And it's individual, and it's going to be some users that they're underexposing and some that they're overexposing and oversaturating, and that's how they'll shift their reach to the right set of users. And I know that, and that's what John had mentioned, but then to underscore what Taylor said, that will come through a measurement solution, right? It needs to be advanced, it needs to be coordinated, and it needs to look holistically. So I think that's what's going to be critical and key, and that's how agencies can drive the best value.
That's great. I think we're down to final minutes here. So in one sentence, key takeaway on frequency management for the crowd. What do you want people to walk away with?
Walk away with, you might not have the answer right now, but I think if everybody keeps asking how to get better, I think you'll find yourself in a solution first scenario.
I would say take the next step in auditing, and you mentioned auditing before, but take the next step in auditing your buys across CTV specifically and other channels. Try to consolidate and measure that as best you can, however you want to do it. There's a lot of different ways to do this, in-housing if you want, or working with a partner like an Innovid, a trade desk, a Yahoo, someone who has a consistent identity spine. But look at that buy, try to audit it, try to understand your site lists and the frequencies that you're putting out there currently, because I think a lot of times it gets lost in translation across different channels. So I would start there.
I'd say, that the solutions are going to be complementary, and they're going to take a partnership between agencies and ad tech partners. And, I think that that's important because we are building and evolving solutions very quickly, but it still requires that agency touch to make sure that advertisers understand the change and also embrace it.
Right. I'm going to add my own, since I asked, I'm going to add my own in that I think it's important to remember that frequency management across platforms and across the silos that we have, it is doable and it is possible now. We're still at the front edge of it. It's still a major issue. It's still a major issue with advertisers. It's still really painful from a viewer perspective. We're all in that seat too, and we don't want to get the same stinking ad over and over. That doesn't help brand love. It doesn't help with efficiency, but just know that there are solutions out there now that these fine folks have talked about. And if you do have questions, you can come up to any of us afterwards. I think we'll be around as well. So thank you again, Ashwini, and thank you all for sharing your expertise with us.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.